Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We are live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Go to SamTripoli.gold, use promo code TINFOIL, and you can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month, sent right to your house. Today, we're going to be breaking down Project Monarch with a whistleblower. Very excited to have him here. Please welcome Gray. How are you, Gray?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. We greatly appreciate it. Great. For those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about your story and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, sure. I was, raised up in Project Monarch and related. You can find me on social media. I'm predominantly active on X at Gray Area Monarch. And my main website platform, I'd say probably reason that brought me here would be organizedsafety.org, which is the anonymous end-to-end encrypted intake platform for people that have been through related projects and so on and so forth. All whistleblowers welcome.
Perfect. We're glad you're here. Thank you for coming by. So where's your story begin, brother?
Yeah, man. So I'm from upstate New York, right on the edge of the Adirondacks.
Me too, brother.
Okay.
So where's your story begin?
Yeah, man. So, I came up in it. My grandfather that was there on my father's side was got tapped in World War II. He was an air engineer in the 891st, ended up getting pulled into these programs back here in the States. He did some work with NASCAR. He was a logger out there in the Adirondacks, kind of carrying stuff in and out of some of those, retrofitted missile silos that are known to be peppered right throughout the mountains there. And then, just raised me up through the program. I mean, it's, it gets real dark, real twisted, some, real fucked up things happen. I don't know what people want me to say there, but, I don't know how much you want me to go into that or what, but, I'm happy to go into whatever.
Let's get into kind of the history of Project Monarch, and then we'll bring in how it affected you. Or would you prefer to do your story, then go through the history of it? What would you prefer to do?
It doesn't matter to me. Honestly, I was kind of prepared to kind of touch on the background historical aspect, bridge it to kind of the current day, and then touch on my history from there.
All right, perfect. Let's go. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, man. So, just to touch on it, going way back, the ruling class, the priest class, right? There's always been kind of an overlap with the occult and then, military intelligence, espionage, and, bureaucrats, politicians, whatever you want, from Babylonian blasphemy to Egyptian mystery, right? Greeks, Romans, Maya. It's the same hierarchical structure and practices. You got, different themes and nomenclature, but it's still the same thing time and time again, whether they want to rebrand it, change faces a little bit. It's the same thing that goes way, way back. Some people may be familiar with John Dee, right? By some, he's known as the original 007, right? That's, kind of what he would sign letters in. And him and Edward Kelly were known for kind of channeling, or whatever you want to call it, communing with these spirits, with what they purported to be angels, to make the Enochian system, right? The Enochian alphabet and all that Crowley kind of ran with and, kind of modernized. And
is it called the Enochi?
The Enochian alphabet.
Is that Enochi? Is that connected to Anaki?
Are you saying like Anunnaki or something?
Anunnaki, yeah. Is that connected, or is that two totally different things?
I'll be honest. Things have a million different names, but no, I think the Anunnaki's like, the the
fallen angels,
like the Sumerians or something called their gods and stuff like that. You know, the gods from the sky. But the Enochian is like a kind of its own alphabet that's used a lot in in these occult ritualistic practices, right? To conjure, to invoke, to evoke, to it's a whole magical system. Crowley kind of ran with it and really built it up and modernized it, just to make kind of a whole system, right? An occult system, and like him, then Parsons and Hubbard, they were known for that Babylon working ritual, where they were, trying that. It's kind of infamous with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and stuff like that. But yeah, this was a whole alphabet and whole magical system of communication that they purported to kind of like channel, communicate with angels. But these angels put them through like a series of progressively, kind of worse tests and trials that ended up with them kind of wife swapping and just tested and just moral debauchery, right?
It always
and just,
gets to that.
Like, really had it in for them. So like, I think there was a lot of lessons to be learned from what these people were doing back then.
So real quick before we go any farther, I want to get into the fact that so we get into all this like who runs the world, all that stuff, and like I've always said I believe that it goes way, 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 way beyond the Abrahamic religions. It's not this Abrahamic religion or that Abrahamic religion. I've always said it goes all the way back to Babylonians and the Babylonian money magic and the Babylonian rituals, the Babylonian occults. And it's because regardless of what, like, you can have all this discussion about what religion, this, and that. But when you study the people that you think represent the power structure and you study them, they always give you symbols of what they really believe in, whether it's Epstein and the colors on the on Epstein's island or all the symbolism. It always goes to a dark arts occult. It's never the Abrahamic, or in my humble opinion. People can yell and say, "Oh, you don't want to say it's the Jews." I just think it's levels above that. I really do believe if you know their name, they're not running shit.
Oh yeah, the power is never in the limelight. And I mean, you're talking about back to Babylonian. I call it Babylonian blasphemy. But I mean, then what happens? Right? Babel, right? They're splitting it up into different names, different things, putting different faces. You got your main thing, you got the opposition, controlled opposition, and you got a few extras. They planted seeds everywhere. And, they had to cover all their bases. One, to scoop up different people that don't go with the flow here and there. They're trying to get an all-encompassing approach, and they hit this from every single angle. And that's exactly it, because they have different themes. They're playing every game possible, people get confused, but with different themes and different nomenclature, and people want to argue over things when it's the same stuff. People say, oh, the Jews, this, that. It's about the practices. What are the practices? It's specific, dark, ritualistic practices that have a means to an end. There is method to the madness. A lot of this gets convoluted, but you can demystify it a little bit. Aside from any would-be magical elements and some supernatural actual phenomena, you have really what goes hand in hand with this is dark neuroscience applied. That's what really comes to it at the end of the day. That's what this is about. Dark neuroscience applied. Then yeah, sure, there are other methods and is there like phenomena that can be evoked? Sure, and we can get into that. But people need to understand that there's a method to the madness.
And I don't know where you are religiously or spiritually. That's your thing. If you want to tell us, you can. But for me, all this dark arts occult, to me, is the best argument for God. Because, there's a yin and a yang to everything. And, if you kind of get into again, this breaks into the into the Abrahamics, but this notion of God letting the devil or Satan or whatever he is run this place to so they always go who is control of this realm? And everyone says God. And you're like, well, God, if you listen to the story, God put the devil in charge. And that's why things are so dark. And then we could also get into Lil Caesar and all that stuff. That's another conversation. But it's like all this war, all this death, all this destruction, all this hurting of children is because, there is a dark entity running this place right now, put in charge by God to test us. And whether you think that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's like this is an argument for me for God. That's why I believe it. If there's a darkness, there must be love, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And, love is everything. That's really what it's about at the end of the day. And, I might be a little rough around the edges in the way that I'm getting there, right? But, me, just like everybody else, just playing a part. And if you want to get into the religious aspect, I'll call it what it is, Luciferians. All right, that's what these people are. That's what these people are, regardless of the faith that they have. You have these people at the top of the Catholic Church that are really doing this shit, Luciferians. You have people that are just overtly doing the dark, sinister aspects, Luciferians. And there is a dichotomy to that as well. There's a duality to that. That's what everything is balanced on. But their light is the false light. They just, again, have to play controlled oppositions, have to play all sides of this.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've had guests on in the past talking about that the Luciferians who are dark versus the Moroccans who are even, or the Molochians, not the Moroccans. We love our Moroccans, okay?
We love Moroccans.
Molochians who are even darker. Like, it's like when you kind of go like, regardless of what you think of what Trump's doing right now in with World War III, possibly we can pull that out. But it's like Trump versus like Hillary Clinton or Dick Cheney. Like there's like dark, and then there's like pitch black. And the Molochians.
The Moroccans.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to have to do a tour of Morocco and just apologize.
Cancel in Morocco.
And here's what it is in my experience is like, you have like, again, there's a lot of controlled oppositions, but you have like a macro thing going on. Like really what you have is two main factions, right? And they work together to control the masses, but they also infight over those levers of control. And those two factions kind of like you got the Jesuits, Malta, and, Templars and all interrelated societies from that, again, including things that they seed. And then you have the dragon societies, the Brotherhood of the Dragon, the Snake, okay? And you have that, like in the dragon societies, China, Japan, some of Eastern Europe, sprinkled everywhere, don't get me wrong. Even like the SS and Hitler and these Nazi paperclip people, a lot of them were the dragon society that came in. But then you have Jesuits, Malta, who again are everywhere as well. So go ahead.
I like that. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to Ian Ferguson. He's the one who came on from White Lotus of Light on YouTube and told us about the difference between Luciferians and Molochians. I don't want to go too much off course, but this Dragon Society, what do you know about them? I find this interesting.
Well, what do I know about them? Brotherhood of the Dragon. Like, it is what it is. They, have their own system, but the important thing is that it's still the same hierarchy. Everything is built on the same hierarchical structure that's handed down ultimately from the same entities. That's what these people need to understand, that even the fighting that goes on between the white and black factions of the Jesuits, of Malta, all this, just like you have white dragons, black dragons, green dragons, all this, you have, the white and black element of that too, okay? Ultimately, whatever part they're playing, they worship the same, and you don't have to know your boss's boss to effectively work for him. If your practices are helping someone and serving their interests, then you are worshiping them, right? Whether it's overtly, covertly, or fucking by accident, right? So the Dragon Societies, it is what it is. They got their own thing, and you got some fighting going on.
Sorry about cutting you off there.
No, you're good.
Do you think that you can apply that view of structure to almost any group? Because we just had a great, very spirited conversation with a great comic, Ben Benakis, on the last episode, and my argument was more my argument than the other guys, but it's like, any group, if you go up the power structure, you tend to get more and more psychopathic, and like people need to understand that it's like when someone going, oh, it's these people, like the base is just trying to live their effing life while the top is trying to do all this like dark arts, snake, Brotherhood of the Snake, or whatever, Luciferian, Molochian kind of stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what it is yes, this is ultimately the same structure and it's been handed down. Now, it's some are they perverted it more? Have they inverted it? Have they misused it? Have they watered it down? Have they switched it up? Are they compartmentalized and they only have a certain part of the system, but not the important parts? Yes, and you go all the way even down to street gangs. They're built on the same hierarchical structure with the occult, with the symbolism, with the practices, with the tiers and the steep sides to where the real power's at the top. The lower levels only get some of the knowledge and they get exploited and used while simultaneously being used as cover and interference.
That's the Freemasons. Like, I have good friends who are Freemasons. They're like, dude, all we do is try to help. And I'm like, yeah, I know they tell you you're 33, but really you're just chilling out in San Diego. You're not like part of the super high structure for some reason of like the Freemasons that are like, dude, study like the Scottish Freemason. They were like instrumental in creating Israel. Like all of the British Freemasons were instrumental in creating Israel. I mean, most of the fucking Freemasons I know have no clue about that.
The structure itself lends itself and creates the environment that can be exploited. These things don't need to be done like that by these, underlying oaths that they take that override some of their other things, such as policemen, right? Just whatever you get, the people that really mean well and are trying to do right for themselves and their brothers and humanity, they're being used. They're being used for cover. They're being used as a blanket. They're being used to even out these psychopaths' karma at the top, right? They're being used in every way, shape, and form. And simultaneously, if they can be used and they're useful enough and they are able to climb these tiers and they get stair-stepped and desensitized, maybe just one day they'll get to see the club, But the thing is people are just, they can't handle it. And I hate using these cliche terms like cognitive dissonance, but you get some of these people and they just can't face it because all they want to do is climb the ranks and do better in their business and do better in the social structure. But really, if they learn, hey, not only is this not what I thought it was, but, these people are just, committing heinous acts against mankind, it's really upsetting for them. They feel powerless against it. They can't do anything. They're caught up in it. It's a big pill to swallow. It's a tough pill to swallow. So, that's the thing is the structure itself is utilized. And this goes into, all of the societies. If there is infrastructure, because, under philanthropy, that's the best place. That's the best place. You can get funding from people, right? You can get cover, it's almost above reproach, right? And then also sometimes people will be more apt to sweep things under the rug because you don't want to stop the philanthropic train from going, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, we can't let this ruin a good thing. Little do they know the main purpose of this is to be, running interference and cover. Yeah.
I agree, man. I totally agree, dude. It's so, and I want to get back on track for the Project Monarch, but if you study like Hollywood, like that is everything. Like the not wanting to rock the boat is the biggest thing out there, and it's like crazy to me. Like Johnny and I were talking about how Mark Maron, right, was just like calling, what was he calling Bill Maher? A fucking asshole or a pussy?
A bitch.
Ooh. Because he agreed with some of the things Trump has said. I'm like, imagine that, dude, you're too smart to think that. And that to me is projection. He's projecting to the Hollywood apparatus. I'm conforming. I'm playing ball.
I think he believes that shit.
But Mark Maron, who's one of the smartest guys I fucking know, thinks you should agree with nothing Donald Trump says. If Donald Trump says the sky is blue, you should be like, fuck you, it's pink.
You see that with a lot of these Hollywood, like Larry David's that way, dude. He's very, just anybody who even gives ground. There's certain type of Hollywood guy, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but that just will not give an inch on any of that shit, man. Like with the
so
parties.
Weird to me to say that.
Yeah, people overcorrect.
Hey guys, crypto's back, and let me tell you, there's no better place to find out what coins to invest in than Copy My Crypto and James McMahon. Let me tell you about James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Guys, it has to piss you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still done nothing. Okay. It makes sense. Crypto is complicated and it's really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to know a thing about crypto to make the money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. You simply just copy along. So let me tell you about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 50,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each one, it went on to be worth over $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said, okay, that one call alone retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify this yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who copy James, then pause what you're doing right now and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. Okay, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You're not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers get full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, or you can keep buying some, okay? But there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of them? Guys, don't waste any time. Go to the site and read it, okay? Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. It ended money worries for so many, it may just do the same for you. Guys, listen to me. Like, I'm a man on the go constantly, and I need clothes that can handle the jam, okay? I need the best, and the best clothes out there for the man who puts a real day's work in is True Work. Let me tell you about True Work. True Work is hell-bent on creating a more technically high-performing workwear in the world, okay? True Work's story begins in the Colorado mountains, where a trade worker knew there had to be a better solution than the wet, heavy gear that was weighing him down. True Work was born. Bang, bang, pow. Every True Work product is engineered for maximum comfort, protection, and efficiency with a minimal bulk and extra weight. I'm all about that, okay? Denim and cotton canvases haven't changed much over the last 200 years. True Work upgrades traditional classics by using the same fabrics worn by elite outdoor athletes, okay? Soft, stretchy, sweat wicking, soft shell work pants are the major upgrade over wet, heavy jeans. Let's go! Wind and waterproof shells use intelligently placed insulation for streamlined warmth that lets you stay mobile and agile, okay? Like in the streets. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. True Work has over 50,000 five-star reviews and countless stories from trade pros in every state and every job across the country. So upgrade to True Work for a major change in the way you work, okay? True Work helps you be your best when your best matters most. Check out the full lineup and get 15% off your first order at truework.com/tinfoil. That's 15% off at truewerk.com/tinfoil. And we thank True Work for sponsoring the show.
And you know what it is. You know what it is. I mean, you know, and these people might not be consciously tied in with it to that level, but either way, like, people go with the flow. They know how to play ball. They know the rules and they know the penalties. It's been well established. All right. You know, it's an open secret, if it's even a secret at all. Like, they know what happens, you know, so it's, you know, it's sad too. You know, these people though, that's a good thing about this mentality, and so many people caught up in the mentality. The only silver lining is that as soon as the page turns and people see that writing on the wall, these people can't wait to get out of this. So many of them, you know, but it's the time for this to happen. And, you know, it's kind of getting that ebb and flow, and it's time to come back home. You know, these people, there's so much bullshit going on and so many people cannot wait to leave the cult. And I'll call it what it is. The cult, whether it's the Hollywood cult, right? Whether it's whatever they are exactly, whatever little area they're in, a lot of people can't wait to get out because it's bullshit, and unless if you're at that tip of the pyramid, you're always got that carrot dangling and you're always trying to climb up and you're slipping a little bit. And it's, it's a rat race. It's a rat race in of itself. A lot of people that I knew, and I was plugged in decently, right, with the music industry and, getting into Hollywood and stuff like that. Cause, I used to grow marijuana. That was kind of one of my specialties, like my main specialty, other than the other end of things, But and I would be serving these people, and they talk. Everybody talks to the weed guy, right? These people would open up. Everybody can't wait to get away from the shit. Like it is bad.
Yeah, nobody likes it.
So some people got to step out first, and I appreciate people like you, willing to really address this and talk about stuff, because when this water's dripping and it's busting through the dam, and once it goes, and it's about that time. So.
No, I think it's great, dude. I love you. You're passionate. And I agree with like everything you're saying. So let's get back to John D. and how they basically started to establish this. It's this thing that we've talked about in the show where like predators never stop hunting. They never stop hunting. Prey, humans, humanity, they just want to live their life, raise their family, have a, have a drink here and there, get laid, have kids, raise their kids, leave something for their children. Like that's what 99% of the population wants. Just leave me the fuck alone. Let me live my life. But there's this apex predator group that is always hunting. Always. It's like when we get into Project Gladio, it's like there's just all these secret societies that are constantly just manipulating everything all the time, just trying to tweak a little here, tweak a little there, take the ship and just get it offline, just a degree, bang. So now it's going a little bit off this way, right? So what are your thoughts on all that? Like you want to get, again, you kind of talked about John D a little earlier, but I'd love to go a little deeper into that.
Yeah, so I mean, don't get me wrong. I only know so much about John D. Just kind of was demonstrating, how he was tied in with intelligence and used like that. Whether it's him and that system and the hard lessons they learned of the tests that were just, just the moral debauchery, right? That they had to get in and stair step in order to ultimately do the bidding of the spirits. They were the vessel, they were the servant. Don't get it twisted. They might have been trying to get information and power from this, but at the end of the day, just as everybody, they were being used and they were being toyed with. They are toys, okay? Like, people are toys to these things. If you want to go talking about these spirits and stuff. But just like he was doing favors for like Queen Elizabeth and, they were kind of using him as an intel source. I mean, this goes back way to like the ancient dynasties and you had your seers and, they'd, have their oracles and just all this. Like, this is nothing new. That's just the occult overlap with military intelligence, the ruling and the priest class. Like, this is nothing new. It's the exact same thing that's been going on again, back to Babylon since. It's just changed names, changed faces, split up into a bunch of different things, different themes, different themed nomenclature, and people fight about it when really ultimately it's about the same thing, just different faces, different brands of Luciferians. And that's what people can, talk about the different, aspects and, whatever, but that's what it is. That's what it is. The same, ultimately the same hierarchical structure and the same ritualistic elements and the same occult path working on themselves, and kind of like, doing things directly to themselves and their groups, and like kind of like hard targeting themselves to build up through this occult path working and, break themselves down, shatter themselves into pieces, build themselves up to become, what they see as more than man, right? Apotheosis is what these people are going for. And then while they're doing this, the same sort of techniques that they use on themselves in a way are being applied to the populace passively, except for obviously the context of applying it passively to the populace is to get them to do their bidding and their will. They're kind of taking what's done to them, right, and then applying it through a controlling lens, right, and a ruling lens to the people, right, from these hard lessons that they're learning direct
hurt people, basically,
hurt people, and it's a cycle. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Break the cycle.
So this is where, like, again, with the last guest, when we had this discussion in World War II, you want to get into Hitler, the Nazis, the fact that Hitler in 1913 was seen in Tavistock. along with Hess. And Tavistock is kind
Tavistock,
of
yeah.
Tavistock. Excuse me, everybody. Tavistock.
That
My
painting,
apologies.
right? Yeah.
Tavistock is.
I don't know what.
Tavistock
is Travis
sounds where they had a music festival.
Tavistock is the OG in all this.
Tavistock is the OG, and that gets into Hitler and what. And my belief, he was a spy. He was MK Ultra, and they used him for what they needed to. But yeah, I mean, like, and then all the dark arts occult in the Nazis as well. So yeah, I mean, like, a lot of this comes from the British and their secret societies as well.
Absolutely. Which again, though, ultimately were started by Jesuits, Malta, and also the Dragon Societies. That's where all this is coming way back. We're talking about these age-old orders, and again, they got the tentacles, and they seed new names and little groups, and they split it all up. But we're talking about age-old orders and secret societies that transcend nations. Right? When these societies were started, this is far before America was America. Everywhere in the Middle East had a different name when these things were starting. Like, these are age-old orders. Go back to the Hashashins. That was, what was that? Drugging and brainwashing, to make assassins. Like, none of this is new. Yeah, it's a little bit smarter and a little bit industrialized, but just like, at the end of World War II, right, Malta made the OSS, and that's, you can dig into that if people need to go into that. And then that turned into CIA, while at the same time, the Dragon Societies, Hitler, SS, had, all them, they came in through paperclip, right? And then that group together industrialized these occult elements, found all the tolerances and the thresholds for people, make sure they don't accidentally kill them when they're programming and applying this conditioning, and, just got all the limits, right? And the boundaries, and then operationally, industrialized this heavily through, here in America at least, through the National Defense Education Act, Talent, and GATE, and related. And so that's where this stuff really started getting industrialized. The end of World War II, you had the Dragon Societies coming in through paperclip, and then you had Jesuits Malta coming in through OSS CIA. Boom, MK Ultra, research. That research was derived and refined and then implemented operationally as Monarch, okay? And there's a bunch of adjacent products, but Monarch is the head thing. It has different names, different places, right? You got it might be called a marionette program here. It might be under, one of these other names in China, this and that. But Monarch is taking the age-old principles, right? It's using epigenetics, right? Because monarch butterflies have a migration pattern that takes 5 generations. They pass that information epigenetically. But monarchs also rule territories. So just like you said, Hitler, MK Ultra, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, the ruling class has long been controlled and manipulated, right? By these occult terms, by what they're communing with, and by their little seers and this and that. Like, this goes hand in hand. It's the same exact thing. But yeah, the end of World War II, industrialized.
Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of study America, where kind of everything goes off the rails is, the end of World War II, the Dulles brothers bringing over all those freaking Nazis. And it's so funny, again, we talked about it on a show before, but Richard Nixon's role in bringing over Nazis, like Tucker Carlson is trying to be like, he's misunderstood. Nah, dog, he's exactly who we thought he was. And then you get into Reagan, we got Kurt, coming on talking about Reagan, Metzger, and all that, how, like, he's not the guy he was sold on. And it's like he's in the dark arts and he's getting, and just like all this occult stuff that comes over with the Nazis in the 1950s, the assassination of JFK. We can have discussions about that as well, but like what ritual that is it to kill the king? Was it fake that JFK just wanted out because they knew he might have been killed, so he tried to find a way out? But you study the death of JFK, that ushers in a lot of darkness into this country, and in particular the occult.
Absolutely, and also sets a precedent and sends a message to people. Obviously, if he can get touched, who can't, right?
Yeah,
it's 100%. Locked in. A lot of people fall in line.
And he did that Zapruder film. Is just, it's so weird how he goes from being the Beatles to like nobody's at a show, right? Like, it's like, oh my God, all these people are everywhere. And then there's just like 2 people in the background. And then it's like, boom, boom, boom. And you're like, what is going on here? And then all the, just how, like, just like 9/11, all the elites flew in for it to watch. crazy, dude. It's definitely an occult ritual, man. And even the founding of the country by the founding fathers, all Freemasons, all this. If you study like Washington D.C., the design there, is very occultish.
It's all a plan, and anybody that goes digging, that's what you find out too. Me, as far as history, all this stuff goes. Like I've really, I came up in this, so I have like a mechanical understanding, right? I've, digged in a little bit here because I'm not one for movies or even like, I'm in a lot of ways I'm sheltered, but I've recently done some digging so I can articulate things and have more of a technical understanding versus the mechanical. But yeah, I mean, if you go, the plan has long been said. Like this is no secret. If anybody goes digging, you'll find it. It's there's age-old plans that are coming to fruition right now, and it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecies. And people get all caught up over it, fighting, if you believe in it, if you don't, if you do that, like end times and all this. It's like, that's a script that they're playing and like leading up to major events that they want to unfold. Why? Because through these events, certain things happen, certain, rituals unfold, if you will, long term, and then they get what they want, which is, whether it's, to traumatize the populace and then, be able to pass some new legislation. Obviously now what we're looking at is ushering in the new age. Some might call the beast system, kind of clean appearances. People seem happy, but really you have that technological control ushering in.
Yeah. I mean, like, dude, you kind of go through these kind of like these what they call high impact events, and if you go from like, first of all, I mean, you could go OKC. That bombing was pretty big. I guess we'll kick it off there, and then like 9/11 traumatizing and how like it hardened us. Like people became okay with killing innocent people. And then the next one was, I'm sorry, but like Hillary Clinton kneecapping Bernie Sanders became like this kind of moment where the elites were like, we're going to do whatever we want. We don't care what you guys want. You guys, your will doesn't mean to anything else. And it was like this real detachment from like the desires of the elites versus the desires of the population. And like I'm telling you, that's a way bigger moment than people want to give it credit for. And then finally, COVID. COVID was like this kind of restructuring of America and how we operate that. I don't think we still, granted, it's only been 5 years, we still haven't recovered from.
No, I mean, it changed just on the superficially. Well, it's not even really superficial, is it? It changed the way we all communicate. I mean, there's still so many people that would never. It sped up telecommunications, like people actually telecommuting to work by a decade maybe. That was that was going to take a long time, and you got to think who does it benefit for society to be restructured in that way, where people actually aren't getting together, communicating,
interacting,
or the consequences they did to kids. They don't know yet. It's not. They don't know yet.
Newsom, like, I can't believe the kids are retarded. They're like, you kept them out of school for fucking 3 years.
Yeah, people don't realize how much they've been affected by all this, and it's a lot. It's really scary. And at the same time, like, people not knowing how they're affected. At the same time, what's been happening systematically, people's attention spans have deliberately been shortened. They need to be fed what they know. They need to be fed it in bits and clips.
So right.
They're not looking to as much of the long form, and again, they're just like, way back, they broke up the nuclear family, right? That was a major thing, right? Because they want people separated from any bonding, any attachment, any loyalty of their family, so on and so forth, and just be boom. They want, the ruling class, and they want the slave class. That's what this is really about. And, the gap is widening, and they're really implementing this system. And yeah, it's frightening because people don't understand how these events affect them, and they're living so day to day that they don't even have the time to look and introspect. Meanwhile, those walls are closing in. The room's getting smaller. We're all getting taller.
Yeah.
Dude, my attention span is horrible. Like sometimes I watch movies, I'm like, why am I on my phone?
Well, dude,
I want to watch this. Why am I on my phone?
There was a viral video the other day. This is thing they've started doing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where it's not good. They had like a crank call or something it was kind of funny, but it's not just good enough to have a crank call anymore. The video for it was, what would you say, kind of like visually stimulating man activities, like people making like craft whittling, sped up. So it had a video which was like a litany of these entertaining video clips with the crank call over top of it, because that's not apparently to go viral now. You have to have. It's not just enough. To have
but going viral is in its own thing a magic trick.
No, it's totally a magic. Yeah, that's what it is. It's magic. Yeah, definitely.
This whole notion that I got to do this crazy ass shit to be seen,
and it's an arms race. It's good. It's not getting better. It's getting worse, dude. It's a race to the bottom.
Dude. I totally agree, dude.
Yep, getting people caught up in the rat race. And, it's just, like you said about going viral. I remember when, the kind of the social media and YouTube and everything was still a little bit newer, and they have like the auto-tune funny things and stuff like that, right? People had a chance of going viral in this. Now it's just another rat race, and everybody's caught up in it trying to get the attention. Stuff was breaking through, but we're at a weird place now because, one, the networks of things that we were talking about, some of this stuff, if information needs to get out, right? And, it's not enough to just erase someone, right? They try to contain that, and they isolate networks and isolate the reach while studying them, and then see how they can manipulate. And this stuff has just been going on. It's such a large scale, and they've refined it so much. It's scary because they are controlling people in ways that they don't understand or realize. And it's just people are caught up trying to get that information out. Now there's just so much information. It's watered down. You have to find, you have to sift through all the bullshit to even get to something. It's really a clusterfuck because, since they couldn't completely control information, well, when the good information comes out, right, they can just overwater it down. And then it's makes it very hard, especially for the layman, right? Because a lot of these people, even if they're intelligent, they might not have street smarts. It's really, it's hard to sift through the bullshit and get to what you need. It's too much.
Yeah. It's meant to overwhelm you. And, where everyone's like, oh, everyone's getting dumber. I don't think everyone's getting dumber. I think they're just drowning in useless knowledge. They're just giving us just wasted. They're giving us a couple things. They're giving us just useless data. And then they're slipping us occult shit without us even knowing. You know what I'm saying?
I think people could be getting dumber, but not for that reason. Look at who reproduces. Have you noticed? It's dude, we watched this show, Love After Lockup. It's about convicts who got relationships while they were in jail, and then they continue. And these people fuck like rabbits. And I think that if we are getting dumber, it's that reason. It's because the people who are the dumbest are just they can't use a condom to save their lives. I think it's possible.
Well, feminism, dude. Study feminism. Feminists aren't having kids. Where are we seeing giant population declines? Okay, Asia.
Maybe we are getting smarter than that.
No, Asia and Western civilizations, which are the smarter populations, right? Asia, nobody wants to bang an Asian chick. I don't know what it is.
It's weird, right?
Nobody wants to have kids with Asian women.
Yeah.
They're paying guys to go over there and drop D on everybody.
It's crazy.
And then America, you get all these girls, all we tell them, gotta go to college, gotta go to college. They go to college, they get indoctrinated in Marxism, and then they don't want to have kids. So that population isn't having children. All the smart people aren't having kids because they're like, oh my God, I can't afford it. You're you don't even understand. Your parents couldn't afford it either, and they did it. But you think about, oh, dude, I want to live this life, and then you don't realize there comes a time where the phone stops ringing.
But you could support a family on a factory job, when they're your parents and your parents' parents.
Johnny, people find ways to support their kids. It is the universe.
I can't fault people for doing what they think is responsible. Saying, hey, man, if this kid might have a tough upbringing, maybe I wait. You know what I mean?
People are concerned. People are concerned, and I think intelligent people too have a lot more concerns. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You're looking at the way the world is, and some people might not want to bring something to that, whether they're stable and can afford it or not. There's other concerns as well. So,
guys, you looking for a little action, a little online action? Well, let me tell you, there's no better place to go than Golden Nugget Online Casino. Let me tell you about the Golden Nugget Online Casino. Listen, guys. You feeling lucky? Well, why don't you guys take your first spin with confidence at Golden Nugget Online Casino. Right now, new players can play just $5 and get 250 casino spins on featured games with the promo code Tinfoil Hat. That's 250 chances to win after you play just $5 or more. So don't wait. The best rewards and the brightest moments are waiting at Golden Nugget Online Casino. Whether you're spinning slots, doubling down on blackjack, playing roulette, or any of our other exclusive games you can find anywhere else, you can make any moment golden at Golden Nugget Online Casino.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spends valid for featured game only and expire in 168 hours. See terms at goldennuggetcasino.com/promos.
XG, you send me people asking ChatGPT if I'm controlled opposition?
Oh, someone sent me that they asked you. Oh, I sent you that a long time ago. But yeah, you're good though. ChatGPT.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into some, whether controlled opposition or not. You're putting something major out here. So,
it's so crazy.
I like to say it's about the message, not the messenger. Everybody's going to falter, whoever the fuck, whatever the fuck. So, really, you get a message that will transcend this, and that's what we're fixing to get into here. Because it's not just about shining the light on Monarch in this transitional period that is just absolutely crucial. It's really a intelligent system to address it, a real safe way for whistleblowers to bring this forward.
Okay.
So not to cut you off here, but I don't know if you want me to continue here towards the...
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So obviously, through World War II, you had the Jesuits in Malta, OSSEI, Dragon Societies, Paperclip. You have the National Defense Education Act, Project Talent, and then the Gifted and Talented Education, stuff like that. So I know that's been a hot topic lately, and a lot of people have been, hearing about this, and there's, large swaths of people that don't have their memory from GATE, so on and so forth. So Project Talent, that was made by a World War II aviation psychologist, John C. Flanagan, and so essentially the guy that was selecting combat fighter pilots, right, was picked to do this. Project Talent is a lifelong study of people. You get selected at Project Talent on the books. They're studying these people throughout life and taking surveys. But really what that is, so basically you get tapped for that, boom, you're on the list, right? And they see people now with the social media algorithm, with everything, they can study you very well. Just like they get targeted ads, right? They could do that for everything. So, the Project Talent was the start of basically charts and files being kept on students. Hand in hand with that was Plan Program, which was individualized curriculum for people in this. And then most people that were in talent also coincided in GATE, Gifted and Talented Education. There's regional equivalents. There's a bunch of different names, and you also, that's like middle class, right? The high class people, that's kind of, the more wealthy people, they kind of already have their institutions that are already set up that they funnel them through. But the whole middle class, are get sucked up. If they see some people that are either going to be a dissident or they think that could be useful, National Defense Education Act. And that was so we can make sure we have people in the sciences, in the math, in the arts, right, to be competitive on the world stage. Supposedly it was as a response to Sputnik, Soviet Sputnik, back in that Cold War mentality, right? But anyways, so what was going on with that is, one, they would covertly chart people's, information and plan program. They would individualize curriculum. Now, that might not be the whole complete curriculum. Everybody has something different. It might just mean you go to one GATE class. It might be, hey, we funnel you out to a vocational class, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people kind of like from that are in poverty, right? Sometimes they'll end up in some of these disciplinary programs, and that can also get anybody from any of the regions, but a lot of these people also get funneled through disciplinary programs. So anyways, that whole GATE and STEM, AP, all this, there is a large portion of people that get basically tapped, get selected through that. And it's if people are highly suggestible, which is about 30% of the population is highly suggestible, extra susceptible to NLP, neuro-linguistic protocol, right, so on and so forth. And then other than that, the other main factor feeding back here to Monarch is dissociation. That's hereditary. And what they're really looking for is people with dissociation, and highly suggestible. And then they funnel these people out, and these type of people now with the technology can essentially be brainwashed at expedited rate very quickly. It's scary. It's scary where this goes to. So, that's been building up. And, I go into that in depth. That's not quite the thing for here because, it takes the whole time explaining
before you're done with
methods.
that, is the hearing test part of that?
Yes, absolutely. And you can see they even have patents to where it doesn't mean that everybody that had the hearing test, right?
It's a weird thing. That. Why does the school care about my hearing? It's kind of, I remember weird. They put you in this, you go in the van, and in the van, they sit you down, you put the headphones on, and they press a button. And if you hear it, you press the button. But they're trying to find, I've heard that they're trying to find people that can hear that with like a superpower. They can hear it. It's a noise that not the rest of us can hear, and that's how they start pulling you into the big boys.
Did they hear?
Well, what it really is brainwave entrainment, and unfortunately, they were testing to see because, essentially, there's brainwave entrainment, and they get someone to a median frequency, and what they're doing is, if you have kind of like a replayed brainwave sequence, and you can even dig up like old Monroe patents, have this in them, but at the same time, like this was long before Monroe. Essentially, they're testing to see if people can be linked into a remote neural feedback loop. All right. Remote neural monitoring. They're testing if you basically are, if your hardware is conducive to that. Right. And there's more supporting that we can go into that. But in 95, there's actually a lawsuit against the NSA for remote neural monitoring, so on and so forth. And it was linked up because they were actually linking people up to Echelon. If you know what Echelon is, that's kind of when Edward Snowden blew all that stuff. Echelon was a large part of that. And it's like, agreement for massive surveillance and, just complete signals and electronic intelligence, right? That just is all encompassing. And they're actually linking people to that. Yeah. And that might sound a little bit for people to accept. But again, look at the 1995 lawsuit. That was in Nexus magazine, but this was a giant lawsuit because they were using frequencies to, essentially blanket on the populace. There's frequency, war between the superpowers of the world, but also directly controlling people. And they were, remotely neural monitoring certain agents that actually what didn't hit the public was that these were the Manchurian candidate level people, where a lot of the research and development was being done to where now they're kind of applying these things in sections up to the populace. When they go look to control people, they do it to the populace passively. But really, this is a top-down approach. They control their influencers, their politicians, right? They control, their portions of people. It's just like, even presidents. You look at that. Like I know you mentioned Reagan. Well, a lot of people that came out of Monarch and related have mentioned Reagan being involved with this. And, they go through this extreme programming. These people might be actors or something like that. Just like you have some of these like tier 1 military units that end up being influencers now. They have this base level conditioning. And once that's applied, they are controlled to the nth degree, and then they can use them to in turn influence the masses. It's a top down approach with this.
No, I completely agree with that. And, it's a great example of how frequency is, and I think we might have talked about this before, about how a big Obama scandal was coming out. There's some big Obama scandal coming out, and I think it had to do with like either the wiretapping or Project Fast and Furious. It was a big scandal. And then the next day, there was a shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs victory parade, and that's all the networks talked about. And you're like, how convenient is that for you that some idiot went to celebrate and then pulled out a gun and shot a bunch of people? And it gets into what Jim Lee was on the show talking about. Was about how, like, dude, when they need something to pop off, they send out this frequency, and these people get triggered, and they do something stupid. And to me, this is when we get into, again, they've hardwired sorcery. I've been telling you guys this forever. They've hardwired it. They've been studying this shit long enough that they now can replicate it 100% of the time. That's the problem with psychics and magic. You're like, do it again. And then they can't. You're like, oh, you're not fucking psychic. They can do it all the time now.
Synthesized. Absolutely. And there's paperwork to support that. Absolutely, 100%. And, in the mid 90s, well, first of all, going back to the 70s, there was already, 5 hertz blanketing on consulates, right, and embassies, right, it caused depression and stuff like that. Mega churches are known to put in generators that put out 10 hertz, right, that make people more receptive. And there's,
really?
bits, and that's before you even get to the fine tuning, okay? But then you go into the 90s, and what was happening was, Dr. Michael Persinger, he was known for the Stanley Coren helmet, the God helmet. They were eliciting these experiences in people. He would induce out-of-body experiences. This was before transcranial magnetic stimulation. It's the same principles, though, right? To where basically they, adjust the frequencies. That's all that's going on in your brain is electrical impulses, right? So essentially, they were doing things like, and this goes way back before then, but especially once this helmet came out, they would do a full fMRI, which sees the neuron pathway, see what's going on in the brain when it happens, right? And full EEGs, and they would do invocations. They would do these rituals in Faraday cages, in anechoic chambers, and then they would measure the results, and they could recreate those. And what else they were doing in Grill Flame, into Stargate and all this, was called electronic perturbation. That's when a human mind can affect electronics. And essentially what this is it's the same thing. They can synthesize phenomena. This is a known thing, and the same effects that could be done from invocations could be recreated, boom, with the helmet, where they would record someone's brain when they went through this, and they push the button, replay it, and make people experience these things. And that's using pre-recorded brainwave activity is in a Monroe patent. That's what they were doing, using brainwave activity from psychics, right? And then playing it back on someone. Now, that's the software. Did they have the hardware in their brain to recreate it? Yes or no? And that's part of the way they would see. That's how, when they're doing the hearing test, for example, they can see, okay, this person with this hardware where we can loop them into a system. We try to hit them with these tones, get that brainwave entrainment, boom, see if we can loop them in the system, right? If you can't, play it accordingly.
That's crazy, dude.
This
Think
is 100%.
about what he just said.
Wild.
That they would record a brainwave from a psychic, and then they would just replay it to see if it could give you psychic abilities and stuff like that. That's crazy shit, dude.
That's actual mainstream science now too. They're trying to do this. What is it? They were trying to inject a thought into something mainstream science.
They've been talking about false memories too. Yeah. Being able to implant false memories in your head.
Which is wild. Can I before you get too far afield, can I ask just about back talking about, okay, so there are these levers that can be pulled for an assassination or something, and I assume it's the deep state at the controls. So now, when we know Obama in this case likely triggered that, is it the deep state trying to, who's their loyalty to? Do they have any loyalty, you think, to the executive at the time, or is it purely what's in the interest of the deep state and then the kind of organizations that control them? You know what I mean?
So,
is Trump now at the wheel for this thing, or is it more just in the background of the government, kind of the permanent deep state?
So, I hear deep state and all this, but okay, what's what? Here's the thing is, again, we got the Malta, right? You got the Jesuits in Malta, and then you have the Dragon Societies. These are the people that are using family bloodlines and family dynasties, NGOs, and government to ping pong around to unite their access and unite the powers, just like they'll have people in the legislative, judicial, executive to unite the powers that were designed to be separate, right? So you have that aspect, but also to escape oversight, to escape accountability, to just escape discovery, right? So here's the thing: is who pulls the levers, the deep state, this and that. It's all there's gonna be a lot changing, and who knows? Now, how much power does Trump have? Trump's not the one really calling the shots. And I think if people look into stuff, people try to explain it and do mental gymnastics, but it's you've seen some very fucked up shit going on at certain points in time. Either he's not in control or he's just playing along, but I think it's clearly been demonstrated, right? But who's really calling the shots and all this? It's the people behind the scenes, because a lot of this in the government, the deep state, right? there's these groups that really have power, just use government basically to hide behind national security and to use that existing infrastructure and to use that funding to fund their programs. But like, say they make an army of Manchurian candidates, Pentagon's secret army. You can look that up, Pentagon secret army and Manchurian candidates, signature reduction. But the thing is the people within the government might not actually have all the access codes and know about using them, or might not even be aware that there's actually a lot of sleepers that are double agents that are even in their tier 1 units, right? But these globalists is what I'll call them, because, the deep state, what is the deep state? You have globalists that are elite globalists, essentially, that are pulling the strings, right? Some of their people are going to be in government. Some of their people might not be in government. But it gets real murky when you start using terms, because who knows the fucking definition exactly, right? I'm sorry, I'm kind of I don't know if I directly answered your question there.
No, I think you did. Yeah, totally. It also makes me wonder why there's such a violent reaction to the Doge thing, because, at some point, some document of black money is going to come across somebody's desk, and they're going to be like, wait, you know what I mean? If they're really doing what they say, which is turning the computers loose on the whole system, there's going to be a funnel of money going to, and they're going to be like, wait.
I just don't know if they're really doing
Well, that's
any
what
of
I'm
it.
saying. I don't know either.
This
But
is
this
spending
would
up,
explain why there's such a violent, because to me, the reaction to Elon Musk feels like a work. It feels like it's a campaign.
It's possible,
against him from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is a planned transition, okay? Just like Clinton's and Bush, right? When the people got disillusioned, they handed it over, right? They're ping-ponging it back and forth, and then if someone's seen as the bad guy, what they'll do is use that person to advance the agenda rapidly, so they're real bad, and then that plans to make sure their next guy gets in for sure. And then when their next guy gets in, guess what? Push the agenda. People get upset. Okay, new guy. Is some real things happening? Yes. Just like in false flags, people actually might die, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a contrived situation. There's people that are genuinely pissed for sure. Well, some of them are instigated, some of them are getting the raw end of this. There are real things happening. Now, was it a contrived situation, a planned transition, and effectively a coup between the infighting parties? Oh, 100%, for sure. And look no farther than what they're rolling in, and, the power players that are doing this, just like the new AI Stargate. There's certain things is the main agenda, the main plan is still proceeding us forward. We're still headed for agenda, to 2030. We're still headed for the same stuff. I'm sorry, but the same big things that really matter, absolutely are going forward. I'm not saying this person's a bad guy, this person's a bad guy. Most people don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're just doing the best they can and playing their part. But agendas are moving forward. This was a long planned transition. And we can get into this, but this even goes hand in hand with this whole NHI UAP disclosure thing. This is all planned for the rollout of new technologies. The billionaires, the billionaires, and then military intelligence gets to zip around on their fancy new flying toys, right? And you get the new fancy drones that are coming out for the surveillance grid. And then, they're kind of rolling out this new all-encompassing control to where in the old terms, they weren't able to do this at the extent. They would have Manchurian candidates. They have their politician, whether it's a Manchurian candidate or not, and there'd be a team that's controlling them and kind of handling them, right? But now what you have is people essentially have a digital twin. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's basically a copy of you from when you're born, all your files, all your chart, right? Yeah. Studying your social media, studying your responses, right? And all this to kind of get to know you. And then it can kind of just manipulate you and steer you. And that's being managed by artificial intelligence at this point.
Dude, that's
now, if you get out of line, people come in directly.
You're totally right. And, big thing I just want to add before I move forward is that there's so many layers to this, and a lot of times the layers don't know about the other layers. They think they're acting alone. They're the only ones. Yeah. 9/11's a great example of that. Flying planes, which I don't believe, but let's just go with it. Flying, Arabs, Mossad in the building, direct energy weapons, this, that, and nobody knows about any of them.
Operation Wrath of God. The movie Munich. Remember that movie where the Mossad gets revenge for the terror attacks the terrorists taking them hostage at the Olympics. And at the very end of the film, they go to this cell that's been killing all these spies have been killing all of these People who are supposedly funding terror.
Yeah.
And they say, like, do you think you're the only group that's been doing this? Like, it's true. If you look at the details, they had multiple groups out there that didn't know about each other. Because if one gets popped, have you ever heard of the Lillehammer affair? Do you know about this? Mossad got tricked. They thought they were killing the guy who was the mastermind behind the Munich thing. He actually tricked them into killing just a waiter in Lillehammer.
Damn.
And they had to take down the whole field office. Like, they all got arrested. The assassins escaped. They got out. The intelligence let them out. But in Lillehammer, it's a great story. Check it out, Lillehammer affair.
Sounds like a horrible story.
Well, no, I mean, it's fascinating. Is what I mean by that. And yeah, they got it's the same kind of thing. None of those people knew about each other, so they all didn't go down. Just that one little.
It's like that meme where you saw
exactly,
where the DEA and cops arresting the DEA on a drug bust, and they didn't know about each other.
It's great. Yeah.
It's crazy to me, the manipulation. All right, what do you want to go into now?
Yeah, so I mean, well, like y'all said, though, like, it's referred to by a lot of people as the gestalt, right? The sum of the parts is more than just the whole, right? It's actually a smart plan. These compartments might not know each other, yet they still work together synergistically, because at the top you have, elements that are being handed down by design. This is an intelligent evil, okay? But anyway, so basically, going forward, you have the same crews that have long been responsible for this, and MK Ultra, you got JFK. Going forward, go to Iran-Contra, right? Oliver North, y'all are familiar with this, right? The massive cocaine smuggling and starting the crack epidemic, right?
Yeah.
As a means to an end.
Yeah.
To fund psyops and to fund, Contras, to fund soldiers in, Nicaragua and so on and so forth. So what's not as known about this is that Oliver North was a Knight of Malta, okay? And you can look into that, okay? So you had Oliver North and his crew in the National Security Council. The ones that were involved with this, they're actually are known for creating FEMA, which was originally Federal Emergency Military Action. And now the scandal with this was that when FEMA was made, it came out that they had spent 12 times the budget on covert operations that they did on disaster relief. And at the same time, they set up the continuity of government that was just riddled with their private party partners and essentially, was the who's list of, elite ruling class. But what really was fucked up about it was Rex 84 Bravo. Have y'all heard of this? Are you familiar?
Rex 84, I have heard of this. Go into it.
Yes, Rex 84 Bravo was an exercise to where they would be rounding up American citizens that were on essentially dissident lists, right? And the reason that's scary because, we kind of have echoes of that. And now look who's on the dissident list, right? Now look who's the terror threat in America. Fucked. It's kind of scary because, when I was being raised, it's basically essentially your everyday American, right?
Yeah, right.
It gets really worrying. But so the same crew, Oliver North, the Malta crew, Opus Dei, all these people, right, that are all up in the National Security Council. Again, it's specifically members of Malta and then the Dragon Societies that were doing all these covert operations. And really what was going on also behind the scenes is that they were setting up black sites nationwide. And just like you have Gladio, I heard you mention that. So what was going on is there was cells and mechanisms, machines being built up all over the U.S. in a Gladio fashion. We're talking about sleeper cells of Manchurian candidates. Okay, well, usually Gladios stay behind. Well, globalists stay behind. Whether their dude gets out of office, so on and so forth, whatever it is. And establishing a network. So when they flip that switch, right, whether if it's because there's a huge disaster, whether it's because there's a civil war from people that came in right down from the border and, there's other people in here, or whether they just get, they do their, analytics and they say, okay, we have enough people and we think we can do this. When they throw the switch for that continuity of government, essentially these globalists are looking for a global coup. They would prefer to do that soft and just get in there. But, if it comes down to it, they can throw the switch. And they have created, churned out an army of Manchurian candidates.
Yes, dude. Yes. I mean, there was a discussion that at any moment there's like 3,000 like just Manchurian candidates anywhere that they could just trigger
3,000?
3,000.
Worldwide?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
That's
even
a lot
worse than
of-
that times 10. It's so bad. I'll tell you like this. So in 2006 to 2008 is when it came to, because I rebuked, denounced, renounced everything that I was involved with because it went too far and they couldn't step me into this shit. As bad of a person I was and as messed up as I was, I couldn't get into it. Because 2006, I was a young man. I had, by 2008, I was 22, right? So 2006, I had finally been kind of like promoted and basically I was camped out and I was officially entering the clandestine services, okay?
Whoa.
And I was stationed at a black site. This black site, and I've, put this on and people can look. There's, multiple people vouching for this and all that if people really want to dig in, because I go into this in depth other place on the internet. We don't have time for it. But the important part is that the black site one that I've shown that was publicly blown already was set up in the 80s by the Oliver North crew, specifically for running one, basically drills, which we'll get into in a second, but also the smuggling, okay? So this site was still going in 2006, 2007, 2008, that was set up in the 80s for Iran-Contra, right? And what we were doing there, aside from controlling elements of trafficking through the clandestine services, okay? And again, it's managed through the clandestine services by operational subgroups that have people from FBI, NRO, NSA, CIA, DIA, and conglomerate organizations. They have people from all over. That way they can unite the access and unite the powers from these different groups into their little fold. So it was managed through the clandestine services by subgroups, but those subgroups reported to and ultimately were under, unacknowledged special access programs, USAPs and UCAPs that were ran by the NSC. And the NSC members, the national security members that were involved with this exclusively were either Malta or Dragon Societies, period. Damn. The same as when it got set up. And the thing here is that we were running drills just like Rex 84 Bravo. There was specialized skills, so on and so forth, but there was people in a wide range of activities. And we had a lot of people that were in motorcycle clubs. We had people that ended up going into cartels, people in street gangs, all of this. And what they were doing is managing these as proxies, right? For enforcement, to control the trafficking trade, all this. And it's long been known that CIA and that conglomerate controls the trafficking trades, right? Like this isn't another open secret. People know it, but they don't quite understand to the extent of it. There are people that are specifically trained and groomed to do this. And so you had people from tier 1 units, but not only exclusively, but largely tier 1 units that were programmed, literally had been conditioned since birth, complete multiple personalities.
Oh my
God. Yes. And they will be, absolutely unwitting, okay? Absolutely unwitting. The thing is that you have these globalist...
Is that what tier 1 is? Is that means they've been... Is tier 1 meaning that they were, since birth, they've been
Well, no. So tier 1 is our foremost top tier, highest trained, most capable military forces, and they have the biggest budget. Delta Force is tier 1. ISA, TFO.
Navy SEALs.
It's just a bunch of stuff. You got different ones, but tier 1 is the most elite of the special forces, or a lot of them are called special mission units. Once you get into tier 1, but so like our guys that are going to do the work, right? Like I think the most famous tier 1 unit would be the SEAL Team 6. The other SEAL teams aren't tier 1; they're tier 2. But SEAL Team 6, and there's some other unknown, but those are tier 1. So anyways, these people, here's the thing is like, our foremost special forces, the way they get trained, you got to understand, like to compete on on the international stage, right? And to compete with world powers, they have to be at least groomed from young. Okay. So what's happening is that essentially, just like these programs are managed by globalists, what the globalists do is they also run the early child conditioning proxies. And that's why they're managing not just like Iran-Contra was used as a means to an end, right? The crack epidemic was created as a means to an end for funding. Well, the child abuse and child trafficking epidemic is also created as a means to an end by these same groups. Yeah. All right? And then they're managing, just like they had their hands in preschools. They have their hands in a lot of it is done through religious services to where, the kids will go into the daycare there during the beginning. They have a bunch of different steps, right? A bunch of different ways to do this. They find, other than the ones that they had already been running, they find pedophiles, locate them, will give them just compartmentalized knowledge for brainwashing, things like spin programming. You see all these spirals and all this symbology. People don't know what it is. That represents spin programming, which is a no-mark torture method used for brainwashing, and it can be done very quickly. That's what the spirals is all referring to. People don't understand.
Can you explain that?
It's the most terrifying stuff, and it was originally made in a psychiatric field. They would spin people until they pissed and shit themselves, and they essentially would do what they're told. They'd be in a highly suggestible state, and you could just completely control them. That went into even like the Bahraini chair with the Air Force and things like this.
I was about to say, it does sound a lot like that. Are you saying they're related?
Well, a lot of this is managed under that as well.
My God.
Yeah, because that would make sense, right? That would be the cover for the equipment and stuff if they were. Oh, it's
yeah, and there's real. There's real reasons for it too. Like you want to see if someone can do simple tasks as they get increasingly disoriented, but also like the way it affects your vestibular blah blah blah. Like this is not my field with this, but essentially through the periphery, you can be highly suggested and it bypasses a mechanism. Some of these remote influencing like frequency weapons essentially cause the same mechanism, affect the same mechanism, like in your equilibrium, like in the ear and stuff like that.
Eustachian tubes and stuff, right?
To do the same thing that spinning does. It essentially does the same mechanism in order to easily, make someone suggestible, in order to give them commands. They don't have to hear it audibly even. It can be sent to them in an inaudible, way, and their subconscious just, does it. Like, you can be sent to them subaudible, a 10-digit number. That's essentially 10 digits is kind of like the qualifying stage if they can do that, and then someone will repeat the exact 10-digit number. Anyways, so I'm getting off here, but so, this child trafficking epidemic has been made, and what happens is the globalists run this, and they do early conditioning to essentially, once that split personality, once dissociation is elicited, that they expound upon, once they have that compartment, right, that's what they build, a split personality, that's what they program someone as, right, where they're the double agent, they can pull that up, right? The thing is that the globalists also control that early aspect, and then they will route people to go into these special forces. For example, you have Cubic, okay, CUBIC. They are known for advanced learning solutions, video game solutions. They had the platform, I think, that Call of Duty uses in all these, first-person shooters and stuff. But they essentially have military training. They have all the MOSs, right? All the different, jobs and duties that different forces will have. They essentially have this in a video game-based format. And Cubic is known for being involved with DARPA's Engage. And Engage is the curriculum being used in K through 12 in these GATE programs in AP and STEM.
Johnny's in the GATE.
So what's
Johnny was a GATE program guy.
Right?
Didn't they molest you?
No, nothing weird happened.
He got touched.
I took the test with the weird guy.
That's why he's so weird.
Went to a different class, but I didn't lose. How would I know if I was missing memories? I don't know.
Yeah. They wiped him of his diddly.
I think the people that end up getting funneled in this, is pretty clear that they're missing memory, and typically those people also come from a very abusive background that have disassociation.
Johnny got his ass kicked on the farm.
So DARPA's Engage was K through 12 using some of this, basically like advanced learning solutions and stuff like that. So Cubic, right? These same globalists that are running Cubic, right, will have selected these students, whether they had, offshoots, people that they, were managing through clandestine services, right, pedos, whatever it is, that did this early conditioning. They say then they tap this child. They know, they're on a list somewhere, on a HCS list, Human Control Systems, and they get tapped, and then they go into GATE, okay? And then they get pulled to the sub-project, Odyssey, whatever it is. And then what happens is they start taking this Cubic, and Cubic was in an article for essentially testing these military platforms on students to help develop them. In reality, it's to help train them. Because get this, Cubic, after 9/11, also obtained a company called Abraxas. And what Abraxas does is it's owned by a conglomerate of intelligence agents, right? A conglomerate of the OGs from clandestine services. And they have the contracts to create and to craft the deep covers for Knox. So you have Cubic that does K through 12 and has these military training platforms with advanced learning solutions, linguistics, augmented reality, virtual reality, all that. They pioneered that. We're talking about pioneered the platforms that the first person shooters are even based on. And so they're grooming the children and having them learn these, use these games and everything while they're in school. But then also, meanwhile, they have Abraxas, which crafts the deep covers. So they're grooming these children and routing them unbeknownst to them the whole time from A to Z. So the point is though, say you have a kid had an abusive background, was actually being groomed, they're unwitting, goes through gate, takes all this, plays some military video games, is learning about all this, decides that he wants to be this, whether wants to be a soldier, wants to be a spy, whatever, gets routed to that, eventually is in that, trains, boom, in one of these premier forces, right? Now, not everybody's corrupt in these systems. That's what's important to know. So you have the Americans now, say John Doe, this little kid, right? He's in there and, he's a tier 1 unit, right? And went through this training, has abusive childhood, had all this training, pre-training from these video games and schools that, teach the military methods and all this ahead of time. And he just wants to do good. And his supervisors just want to do good. But guess what? The globalists that were controlling the parties that had abused them actually, with spin programming, had brainwashed them and have those underlying access codes. They can call them up, they can hit them with a frequency, they can give them flash the color with the code and all that. Boom, instant access deep into the heart of whatever operation. So the globalists are grooming the kids that they know are eventually going to go in these programs, and they know how to train them, and they know what these programs are looking for. So they groom them to go in, and then they have the underlying access. That's the thing.
That's crazy ass shit, dude. You send them into somewhere, and then you just call them up. You go beep beep boop 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 boop, and they're like, they give you all the information.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So like, do they have 100% success rate? Of course not. But do you know how many children they've done this? They created a child trafficking, a child abuse epidemic, because what happens is, they essentially have a bigger pool to pull units from, because they have to be highly suggestible. They have to have the hereditary disassociation, which the abuse elicits. But then they also, have to be capable, right? So not everybody's going to be able to get there. So they're putting them through the training and all that. So they already know what's going on, and they're just churning those out, and looking to do that. And on the books, you can look up the Pentagon Secret Army. That's under signature reduction. A lot of these brainwashed people are in that, but they're across all walks of life. You have people that don't go into military at all, but some of these people in military are also Manchurian candidates and unwitting. You have to understand. But then they could be a school teacher. They could be a politician. They could be a music artist, they could be an actor, whatever it is. It's the whole thing, and they just have created an element so large. And I mean, just in 2 years, when I was at this place, Hunter Field and Ring Farm, which was the place, that black site that we were dealing with, we were flying everything in, running these drills to train these people. I mean, well over 1,000 people there just in those 2 years, okay? And I mean, it's truly frightening, the level that this is at and the access. And people need to know, these people also have levels. We're really getting in there with the tinfoil hat, right? They have chips, okay? But nowadays, you can't fucking find the chips because they're too small, okay? But there is ways to discover who is in these. And let me go a step further. You get these people, you say, okay, for example, before I defected and all this, and other people that were with me that were disillusioned and saw the writing on the wall, yeah, guess what? We, have the database of assets, okay? Like, we were already knowing what was going on, and we have large swaths of evidence, but we also have lists of these assets. And what you can do is, if you have someone, say me or someone else that was involved with this, they can go in a Faraday cage in an anechoic chamber, which is essentially just like it blocks out all outside signals, right? And then, these implants are so small nowadays, like you can't see them even with imagery. You need to know exactly where it is. And it's like, specialist equipment, because these things are nano at this point. And also, they aren't just activated. They're not always transmitting. But you get someone in a Faraday cage in an anechoic chamber, and you can burst them with a certain frequency, okay, on a specific band. And then what will happen is that powers it up and it will burst back. And I want you to know that these frequencies are bursting with a NATO band, a NATO registered frequency. Okay. And this is American units that are unwitting, don't remember, having a chip put in them. And I'm saying a chip, but that's like a little bit, it's not just like a chip, they even have things that are like organic. They have stuff nowadays to where it essentially, they can implant it in someone and these things end up making a sprout of hair go out. And people, will get like a mole with one hair coming out. And that's like an organic machine that literally transmits. That's not the only thing. They have a wide array, but they have tested out a variety of chips and different transmitting things from organic and biological machines to another inert substance.
Sounds like
right?
Magellans, right? Those people who think they have microchips in their skin. Maybe they do. Dude. Maybe more.
Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, it's people claim it's like it's inside their body.
It's these people that they become obsessed with like fibers that are in their skin embedded in them.
I thought he was gonna say some kind of term, and it was find out if someone's activated, and then we find out XG.
Oh, really?
It's just controlled opposition and starts going crazy. Have you guys seen the Gotti thing? I don't want to get too far off.
John Gotti?
The new Gotti series on
is it a documentary or
doc? And it's really well done, but it's a very interesting moment where John Gotti's on trial and this female FBI prosecutor is prosecuting him, and the FBI does not want to do it. She doesn't give a shit, and she completely burns this mole that they got.
Oh, really?
And he's sitting there with Gotti.
Oh, no.
And she's like, well, we have to let you know that this one guy's been a informant for us for 15 years. And everyone's just sitting there, and the guy's like...
That guy's like Homer Simpson.
Yeah. It goes back into... Would that be so funny if right there he goes, super fella, catch a listen, XBL and all of a sudden, XG starts going, dirt.
I think that word would be in Spanish.
Okay. Secuentros es humanos es un cuchi. And all right, so back to the situation. Sorry about that. Weird.
No, you're good. So anyways, I mean, that's the thing is, not only, are the high level assets that are actually, like Manchurian candidate level, and we're not talking about throwaway patsy, yes, there is a way to identify that. You get them in a sealed chamber that blocks signals, you burst them with a certain frequency to activate it, it will burst back. You can locate these things and you can effectively prove that, hey, this person under a certain protocol will burst out a NATO frequency, right? So that can be identified, right? Obviously it gets messy, but so here's the thing is this ties in with what was once called the Scorpion program, but it's been such changed. And that linked up with NATO and JADC2. And you look up JADC2, what that is essentially all of our armed forces, every single branch, is linked up, and now it's been outfitted to where all the equipment, like the vehicles, drones, everything are outfitted with a standardized sensor, right? And different sensors, but essentially to link them into a grid. And the JADC2 is managed by artificial intelligence, and even in late 2024, they were trying to get the budget and finally approve the call for fire ability, right? To where through artificial intelligence this could be done. And I mean, look no further than there's been major elements. There's been major elements before with Skynet, if people are familiar with that, which was essentially the program where they were sifting through numbers and phone data and metadata, and that they were killing people based on that. And there was literally like thousands of innocent people killed with this. If you look into it, Skynet, that was a huge scandal.
Oh, that was a real thing?
Yeah, Skynet is a real thing. Look it up. It was a surveillance program, but it sifted all the metadata. It sifted all the metadata. I know Skynet's the thing from Terminator 2.
Okay.
Skynet sifted the metadata and essentially was running hits. They were killing people based on metadata, period. And that's been going on for a long time. And, this escalated through Obama, okay? And, it actually went to the Supreme Court because a U.S. citizen got put on one of these kill lists and challenged it. And unfortunately, it went all the way up, and then they passed that. Even American citizens cannot challenge them being on the kill list.
What?
They can't. because state
You're on the
secrets.
kill list. I am not
State
on the
secrets
kill
privilege
list.
was revoked. Yeah, but the thing is, this isn't just America. This is linked up with NATO, and just like we had Scorpion here. There was counterparts, future combat systems, in the Five Eyes. So this is all the same group of these globalists is controlling this, and they've been porting everything over. Okay, so as all this is happening, it's important that people know. ICD-10 codes were just established. And what an ICD-10 code is medical insurance coding, so they can treat, ailments. And the ICD-10 codes that were just established were made for anomalous health incidents, also known as Havana syndrome. And these codes, there was a study done by Christopher Kit Green. And what he was is a behavioral modification mind control doctor who apprenticed under Andrea Puharich, which was a foremost mind control doctor that was essentially responsible for synthetic.
Oh, we got too close.
Havana syndrome.
We got too
The
close.
Havana syndrome was too much
We
for
got
them.
too close.
Yeah, that's the key word.
We
they were
are
looking
too
for.
close. And they shut down just in time for me to go pee.
That's so funny,
so
dude.
bad.
I think the CIA knows about your bladder.
The world works in mysterious ways. We're back. So where were we, dude?
So the ICD-10 codes, right? The ICD-10 is medical insurance coding. And there was just a study done at Skinwalker Ranch, which is important,
Dude, this
by
guy's
Christopher
getting
Kit
everything.
Green.
Bang, let's go.
This is gonna. Our keywords are gonna be great for this episode.
Yeah.
Just so great. Yeah.
Christopher Kit Green was a behavioral neuroscience mind control doctor, and all the people that have like UFO, UAP experiences get funneled to him. He apprenticed under Andrea Puharich. If you look into that, that was like the mind control doctor. He was responsible for the original like tooth dental implant that could be hit with the frequency, and then it would carry it up the nerve, and people would be able to hear it or understand like the original voice that got stuff like way early. Yeah. So you look into Andrea Puharich, you're gonna be like, ooh, he was tied in with Uri Geller, with all these people. So he was responsible for the psyop of the Nine. He made people think they were channeling. He came up with Indigo Children. He made Space Camp to where the children that were gifted. He basically started that testing for psychic children and all that. He is the mind control
What's the
doctor.
Uri Geller connection? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so I mean, he just had worked with them, and they do
They just
different
work together,
things to where one, a lot of these people that were in intelligence and were like psychics, like they're under mind control. They got to be controlled. They can't just let that loose. You know what I'm saying? Like there's strict protocols. The whole reason all this stuff was developed on, at least for national security, was basically as an underlying mechanism to make sure like people working on nuclear programs didn't leak information. That's what a lot of this went into. And I've put out information to where the baseline programming essentially makes them go crazy, and then if that doesn't work, makes them kill themselves if they're leaking secrets.
Wow.
It's hardwired conditioned in there. Yeah. I've explained that at length, but I know we don't have time for that. So anyways, Christopher Kit Green did a study at Skinwalker Ranch to establish ICD-10 codes to treat anonymous health incidents, aka Havana syndrome. The reason this was done at Skinwalker Ranch was for plausible deniability. They act like, oh, this is unknown, oh, this is non-human intelligence, this is unknown phenomena, but really that's an exotic weapons testing grounds, okay? And there's substantial data out to prove that.
You're saying Skinwalker Ranch is not a portal, but actually a place where they do mind control experiments.
Not just mind control, just all sorts of testing with the new advanced physics, the advanced propulsion, and all sorts of exotic weapons, testing biological effects on the people there that are unwitting largely. Yes, it's fucked up. And here's the thing. Here's why they did it at Skinwalker Ranch. Because think about Operation Northwoods, to where we're going to do the false flag blame Cuba, right? So basically what we're planning to do is, with this new technology rollout, right, that's just going to be more than ever hacking people's brains. Y'all have heard, what was it, the Yusuf, whatever his name is from the WF, talking about we can hack human brains now. What they're doing is they're planning to scale this up and roll out all this new technology, roll out all these new flying toys, all this shit that's been kept secrets, that has been in research and development and even operational, but just still, clandestine, covert. They are rolling out all this stuff, and there is known adverse health effects. There is biological damage to the tissue, to the brain, all sorts of effects, right? And what they need to be able to do is, when they really roll this out heavily, they need to be able to treat people. But, the real bad stuff, they don't want, they don't want to be responsible for it. A lot of this is just going to be unknown, right? Unknown. That's what all this like NHI, UAP disclosure stuff's going on right now, right? This didn't just accidentally come through. Look at all the people that they're parading out. They're not whistleblowing. They're putting out information that's DOPSR approved. They're still bound to non-disclosure agreements, to their SF-312, which is like military non-disclosure agreement. They're still under the thumb. They're still working with and for the government or private parties. Like it's absolutely ridiculous that people think it's anything but. But anyway, so they made the ICD-10 codes for this rollout, right? And they're rolling out all this technology. So the thing is we're in a transitional phase right now to where mind control and behavioral modification and essentially making every single person a worker bee, a worker ant, right? They're about to roll that out harder than ever, okay? And it's managed, largely by artificial intelligence. Each little person, right? Basically, they study everything about you. They got you charted up. They know how you're going to react. They've run all the simulations, and you're getting managed by artificial intelligence. If you really fuck up or do something, right, then they can get, pull that file and have their man go in and whatever, if they need a team to do something, whatever. But like, there is a massive rollout of technology now for mind control. That's what this gets down to. Behavioral modification, manipulation of the masses, but also on an individual level like never before. So what they're wanting to do is they're porting this over, okay? And this is a heavy period to where they are trying to clean house, okay? What they've been doing is, you see like Epstein and Diddy, they're presenting this as a sacrificial lamb as they whitewash the situation. Epstein and Diddy and all these people, what's not known is that these parties and all this, yes, there's a lot of people getting their rocks off, but what's largely going on is that these are grounds for grooming, training, testing all these would-be assets, and they find these children and say, okay, they're doing this. Is this person going to be able to remember this? Are they going to be able to affect this change? Are we going to be able to use this person for blackmail long-term? Are we going to be able to use this person, eventually train them as an agent? A lot of people end up getting the rage from that fueled in order to, be an enforcer, or, there's many different areas they can go in, but they're essentially grooming, training, testing, and even handling off assets to be trauma bonded. That's what's happening at the after party of the after party. A lot of these people are gifting their assets or inserting their assets in this and that, and they are trauma bonding, okay? While they hand someone off, right? Someone gets with one of these children, right? Well, they might be instructed with a certain word to use. There might be certain stimuli, a certain phrase that's getting repeated, and they will trauma bond through this act, right? And then what's happening is later in life, since I made that trauma bond directly, just like with a dog, if you get a dog that's been put through certain training, you have to, bond with it, and you have to learn the instructions and learn how to handle it. So what's happening is you have the trauma bonding at these parties and after the parties, of course, handing off assets, and then they can be tapped later. That's why all the VIPs are in on this, not just about the blackmailing and stuff, because the whole dirty secret here is a nationwide network and a worldwide network of these assets. This is the black op power that people don't understand. And you have all these organizations, right? We're talking about Opus D. We're talking about Royal Order of Jesters. That's, there's been trafficking scandals on the gates for this. All these like 32nd and above invite only clubs, right? Knights of Columbus is being used, Rotary clubs, moose and elk lodges. They're all being used for cover, but also utilizing that infrastructure, right? For funding and also just, to reach out. And what's going on is the people that climb the ranks through this, they understand that like ceremonial and themed rituals, right? And that's what this is all about, because these rituals, in part, the real rituals, are for brainwashing, okay? And these certain weird stimuli and all this, it's just part of the recipe. And they put them through this. And then these people that are adepts, the architects, once they get pulled up into the club, whether they end up going to management in the clandestine services or whether they end up just being a rich billionaire somewhere, whatever it is, these people are thoroughly intimately familiar with handling, with the mechanisms that can be used to handle all these worldwide assets, okay? Yeah. Because it goes into all sorts of all sorts of different like triggering methods. They use shapes, they use colors. These kids that they're conditioning so young, it's pre-verbal, before linguistics come into play. There's certain shapes and certain colors that are used, just like you see like, red stop signs with white letters. Like that affects people on a level they don't even understand. Just like you see the 6-point stars, just like you see cubes, okay? All of this, like, yes, there's other meanings to them as well, but that's what all these parties, that's what this worldwide network of adepts, of architects is there is an army of Manchurian candidates, of sleepers, right? That can be used, sure, by the government and are on lists and stuff like that, but also by individuals that go through life pulling little strings and thinking they're the master spellcaster, but really all they've done is brainwash children and hook them up to post-hypnotic suggestions, right? There's different, you can activate them, right? Like what nomenclature do you want to use, right? Military activation, sleepers, right? Clinical hypnosis. Well, you have post-hypnotic suggestions. You have anchored in initial sensitizing events, right? It's just whatever it is. You can use all these different words, whether you want to get into the occult terms, you're casting a spell and someone's under your control. Like it's all the same thing. It's dark neuroscience applied. Okay, that's
neuroscience.
Yep, that's it. So here's the deal: is you have these people, you have these fucking people that getting into the anti-human trafficking and all this, right? One of y'all said earlier, like people just want to chill. Okay. You don't want to deal with this. Who wants to hear about the horrible things happening to kids and all this, right? Like most people that are really into this either were personally affected by it, right? Yeah. Or are on the other end. There's not too many that are just in the middle lukewarm because you don't want to deal with that. It's really, you know what I'm saying? But so here's the thing is, it's perfect, like the proper channels of reporting and enforcement for like these crimes, ritualistic crimes, they're literally prime. They are prime and coveted placements for these culprits, for these perpetrators, right? Because if they are running the anti-trafficking, if they're running the reporting mechanisms and the enforcement, they're protecting themselves, they're controlling it, they can affect legislation, they control the narrative, but also they're a funnel, they're a dragnet. Victims, subjects are coming to them. People that care, people that want to get involved are coming to them. So it's literally the perfect placement. And over time that has got skewed because, who wants to get involved with this? The perpetrators do. That's who wants to get involved with it. And that's why you go into all the Catholic Church abuse that got covered up for so long. You go into the same thing was happening with the Jehovah's Witnesses, the same thing was happening with the Mormons, the same thing is happening, with Scientology more nowadays and all this, okay? But guess what? If you remember the satanic panic and all this in the 90s when this was really blowing, well, here's the thing is, the satanic panic and the false memory syndrome foundation, CIA seeded 100%. You can look up plenty of members and the money. There's been lots of talk about that and all that. But here's an interesting element to this, okay? Ritualistic abuse, child abuse, there are criminal statutes for it. And in 4 of the states that have these statutes, there is only 4 states. I think now Utah also has one, or that might be one of the 4. But there is exemptions in the criminal statutes. There is exemptions for government research projects.
What?
Why is there an exemption for government research projects in ritualized abuse of a child?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. They are the criminal, they are the law enforcement, they are the prosecutor, and they are the judge.
They're getting around, and these people are in the clubs. Obviously, it's not 100% of people, and I never want to do that. I'm never, I'm not trying to spread that message. But the thing is that there's many of them. They're all in strategic places. These are highly motivated people. There's a lot for them to get from this, right? And there is a network, and this has been going on over time, and they are organized, working together to where other people aren't as organized, aren't working together, and don't know exactly what they're fighting against. So it's much harder, right, to address. But because you go here, you have the Catholic Church, all that, right? But then even going nowadays, Epstein, Nygaard, you have Sandusky, the wrestling coach, right? And all that. You have Nassar in the Olympics with the gymnasts, right?
Yep.
Okay, so How many times do these people get reported and nothing happens? Like, what the fuck's going on? Really?
It is
You understand?
crazy.
You had the Police Explorer program, okay? The Boy Scouts, they had like one of the largest lawsuits ever, 80,000 victims. And again, the Boy Scouts are also tied in with state. Okay, so what's going on with this? People are getting reported, it's getting quashed. They have people in strategic positions and they have been able to quash this long enough, okay? So here's really what we put together, because based on, in 1995, there was the Advisory Committee for Human Radiation Experimentation. Bill Clinton had an apology to this. And this wasn't just like the Tuskegee experiments and stuff like this. No, there was a testimony in 1995 where Valerie Wolf brought forward two direct patients and witnesses and subjects that were involved with the child Manchurian candidate training, to where, they put them through torture conditioning. They escalated having them kill, kittens, blah, 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 so on and so forth, and literally did this mind control programming. This came out, the 1995 ACHRE. It's approximately 20 minutes. There's video of this testimony. And what happened was Valerie Wolf in 1995, in just a week and a half, it got out that she was going to be testifying, right, with this information. And nationwide, approximately 40 therapists contacted her. Keep in mind, this is in 95, whenever there's not really like a lot of communication. The internet isn't what it was. Not everybody had cell phones. You understand. So in 95, around 40 therapists contacted her with hundreds of patients' information, and they presented information that blindly corroborated. We're talking about program names. We're talking about personnel, perpetrator names, locations, events, so on and so forth. Blindly corroborating information for people across the nation that did not know each other, but were saying the same specific information. So whenever I went through what I went through and, decided to buck the system with the group that I'm with, we came out with a new system, and it was inspired by and expounded upon the work of Valerie Wolf at the 1995 ACHRE. And what this is, it's a safe platform to where anonymous end-to-end encrypted reports can be given. And you can go on there and you can submit information, submit tips, submit suspicious activity reports, right, of people, of persons of interest, locations of interest, or just general events of interest, right? And what happens is, boom, it's in there. If you want, we do not identify yourself. We have everything to stair step you through the process, so it's, easy peasy. But the thing is, you can leave just an email address. We recommend making a brand new Proton email address. Don't lose it, save it, right? And what happens is, basically, you can allow permission. One, you can allow permission for a copy of the report if you want it, of course. And then two other options. You can allow permission if corroboration is detected, or for follow-up questions, one or the other, or both, right? So basically, you can either give us permission to follow up and ask more questions through a Proton email address, or if the location you named, if the program name that you named, if the perpetrator you named, right, if the close area you named comes up from one other report, comes up from 10 other reports, you can allow notification of that corroboration. So you don't have to identify yourself, anything. You go there, submit a report, and then if it's corroborated, you can allow, notification. So then what we've been doing is, in the background, building up blind preponderance of the evidence, right, for civil cases, and then burden of proof for criminal cases. Other than that, just obviously painting a full picture of the network. Because you have people like me that already left with lists of assets and so on and so forth, and other information about infrastructure and defectors who were involved just like me, or you just have survivors, maybe they don't want to go on the internet and show their face and talk about everything. Maybe they had a bad experience trying to report to a proper channel. Maybe they have other concerns. You can anonymously report. It's end-to-end encrypted. You don't have to give any identifying information. And again, if it's corroborated, then you can get notified. We have a liaison. We'll, get people together, build up. Then people could say, okay, do we want to come forward? Do we want to do this? Okay, we'll build up a case, then try to present it to the proper channel. And then also you have the option, look, say, okay, these people aren't acting right in this channel, just like Epstein got a sweetheart deal. Things get brushed over the rug. How many times did it happen across everybody else? The churches, Boy Scouts, Nygaard, Sandusky, Nassar, you get it. So what's happening is, we can build it up and, basically get a pre-packaged we call it packages, right? Again, blind preponderance of the evidence, burden of proof, whatever it is, and then decide, hey, collectively, do you guys want to push this forward? Maybe people want to come public, whatever, that's on them. Maybe people want to go try to report to these channels to pursue justice. And then if these channels don't act right, they're trying to give sweetheart deals, or trying to do this, do that, then we can utilize, basically the network and try to put pressure, say, hey, make it public. Hey, these people were handed this serious package and they're sitting on it. What's going on? Are these channels compromised? Basically just put a little pressure. It's like, hey, if y'all don't want to get together and actually prosecute, if y'all don't want to actually push the issue, if some bullshit is going on and they're trying to cover it up, if they're trying to contain the situation, if they're trying to handle people, if they're trying to give small settlements and get people to sign non-disclosure agreements, if they're trying to brush it under the rug, no more. It's bullshit. So basically, we just designed the intelligence system where people can come together, reports, and build up blind corroboration, even anonymously.
And what's the website called?
OrganizedSafety.org.
Okay, well, make sure
Organized Safety is the platform
included. Man, great episode, Greg. Great episode. It was great. Final thing. Tell them again where they can find you.
You can find me on X as Gray Area Monarch. I also highly recommend linking up with my wife. She has a podcast as well, to where she has the largest library of just full-length interviews and testimony of essentially ritual abuse, behavioral modification, mind control, organized extreme abuse survivors. What you need to do, don't worry about any one person. They might articulate it like you like, they might not. No one's perfect. But what people need to do is go straight to the sources. Stop getting the whitewash from the bullshit news. Stop getting the whitewashed information. Go to the sources, find out what corroborates, find out the common themes that are coming across the board, and then get together, link up, and act on it, because the proper channels, unfortunately, are completely compromised. It's disgusting. So I'm on X, Gray Area Monarch. You got Emma Catherine's on X as The Emmapreneur, and her podcast is The Imagination Podcast, and go on Substack as well, Emma Catherine Substack. We put out a lot of information. We're about to put a lot more of just direct information, but you got the summaries and cliff notes and stuff like that for the at-length testimony. Because I know it's a lot, and I know it's horrible, but y'all, if we deal with it and address it, we can move past it. But what we need to do is address it now before they move forward past this. These generations die off, and then, they port everything over from these manual methods to technological, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get rid of the last people that are in the generations where they're doing this more hands-on. The methods nowadays are much more cleaner, right? Much harder to detect and very effective. But guess what? The same controlling mechanisms are at place. They're trying to give you a sacrificial lamb, Epstein, Diddy, all this other bullshit. They're trying to act like they're cleaning house, but underlying mechanisms, it's the same controlling entities. It's the same groups controlling. We cannot allow them to give us fake disclosure, to give us a fake sacrificial lamb to appease us, to minimally tick the boxes just so we can be kept at bay. Don't let it happen, y'all. It's time to go for the head and break the cycle.
All right, Greg, great job. I appreciate. He's the Project Monarch whistleblower. This has been a great episode. All links below. Let's break down the episode. Gray, coming in hot. What do you guys think of that episode?
I feel left out. I feel like I somehow am part of the MK Ultra.
Yeah, I think you are MK Ultra.
A Mexican MK Ultra. You think there's Mexican MK Ultra?
You're Mexican Ultra.
Oh yeah, I wonder. It's a joke you bring up about Magical saying Mexican anything is kind of shittier. I wonder, the Mexican CIA is just doing shittier versions of the stuff. The CIA
does your country have an intelligence agency? Is there Mexican intelligence?
We're barely smart.
I'm sure I don't know what it's called. Let's see. Okay.
See that Mexico has an intelligence agency.
It is called the Centro Nacional de Inteligencia.
Ooh, there we go. But
it's they're controlled by the Secretariat of Security and Civilian Protection. That's what the oversight organization is. But
I wonder if they work for the cartels.
Oh, that is the CIA.
Yeah.
That is intelligent as it gets, the cartel.
Dirección Federal de Seguridad.
It's so
Federal
fucking
Security
crazy.
Directorate.
It's so fucking crazy.
Oh, no, that's the old one. That one's been defunct.
Dude,
DFS.
that episode went so deep. I mean, it's crazy deep.
He hit Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Which now I don't want. Now hearing him say that,
Johnny,
I've
you're
wanted to
going.
go
I'm putting you on a
Now
plane
I'm
right
like,
now.
Maybe not. Maybe
You're
we
going
don't.
there right
Maybe we
now.
don't go.
You are. You're going there.
What else was it? Skinwalker
Right now.
Ranch. We
Skinwalker
got the
Ranch,
GATE program, all that
The
stuff.
GATE program.
Sonic Warfare. All that.
People being born into, like, some people are just born into a
God
world
helmet.
of shit.
Oh, hey.
God helmet.
What about the cavity?
Dark Neuralink or dark, what did he say?
What did you say? Dark
Neuroscience?
Yeah, neuroscience. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That's
Or
crazy.
What do you say? That tooth implant? That
Yeah.
That's insane. If you just go to the dentist, all of a sudden you start hearing things.
See, that's why I told people, like, when you celebrate that pager attack, like, you don't understand, like, once you get comfortable with that, they could use it against you, like blowing up your teeth.
Can you imagine?
Right? I mean, that's why you can't be like, oh, dude, that was the greatest thing ever. You're like, dude, that could be used against you. 100%. They could blow up any of this shit. This gnome could just go boom, and then we're all dead.
Well, we've got some as a culture, some weird love affair with intelligence agencies, even though they've
Because we've been primed.
they've done more to harm the interest of this country than any other group.
Could not agree more.
But think about
Could
all the
not.
films and the TV and even just in our own like
Couldn't agree
colloquial
more.
storytelling that promote like
They're still
the
doing
CIA.
it. There's a new military movie that's pretty huge. It's about Iraq in 2022. It looks good, because it's like
You love boom, boom, bow.
it's action. Who
You
doesn't love
big
action?
Bob's go boom.
Who doesn't love action?
But
I
even
love
like, there's this
action.
movie I just watched a couple of nights ago called Black Bag that just came out. It's really good. Soderbergh movie. But it's about MI6 and the little shit that they get into.
Yeah, of course. And I
mean, it's-
believe
yeah,
the
but it makes them look-
MI6.
they're all cool. They're all like sexy and smart and
Yeah,
cool.
they're all bangable.
Yeah, totally. Because they're trying to get people
They're British
to,
people with good teeth.
I mean, don't forget about. He's kind of there. What was he? Was he an agent? 007? He was an agent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a spy for the British government. Go to SamTripoli.com. Grab my dates. Detroit, Michigan, Tacoma. Where else am I going to be?
Redondo Beach, April 3rd. We don't smoke the same. Go buy your tickets at SamTripoli.com.
Okay. I just got, I'm at the Stand Club and, dude, dates are coming up, dude. We're going to be in San Diego. We're just nothing but hanging and banging, okay? Just go to SamTripoli.com. Go down. Premium content is fire, bro. I mean, whatever this is, okay, is a fire show, bro. I got Austin Picard, I got Brad Binkley, and I just sit there and learn, dude.
You guys already went over the JFK
Files, everything, dude. They're fire, dude. Go check out SamTripoli.com. I mean, you can go on Rockfin, you can go on that, bang, you can do all
you guys
that.
hit it. You guys hit it.
We're over 12. Also, if you want to learn how to make money, make your money work for you, go to patreon.com/cashdaddies. You can click the link on samtripoli.com and get in it. Johnny, how's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing a great job. It's funny because everything was doom and gloom last week, and then we went in and got some really good discounts on some stocks and that, and things are mostly back up now. So
I am crushing it right now.
good
I got
spot.
Disney. I'm buying stocks, dude. I'm buying the stocks where you don't have to worry about it, because even if there's a giant economy crash, Coca-Cola is going to be around. It doesn't matter. Coca-Cola. It's going to be around
a lot
forever.
of those stocks pay nice dividends too.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/cashdaddies. Go down. Guys, go to the t-shirts real quick. Go to t-shirt. New t-shirt up.
Yeah, I like this. Sam Tripoli getting in your brain, dog.
Yeah, I'm in your brain. It's called Common Sense is the New Punk Rock. That's available. Look at that, dude. Bang. Look at me working and DJing your brain. That's how that goes.
Is that what you're DJing?
I'm DJing your brain. I'm tinkering.
But you've also got like an oil can in your
and
hand.
I'm tinkering it, Johnny. I'm tinkering with your brain.
So that's
Tripoli.
DJ stuff over on the side? Is that what that is?
I'm a DJ.
I feel like we've mixed our metaphors here, if I'm being honest.
I'm DJing with oil cans.
We got a can of juice.
Yeah,
back
look
there.
at that. That's a good shit. I'm pouring a little good shit on your brain.
Wild DJ. You're multitasking.
I
man.
am I need to get one of those shirts, dude.
It looks like you're hanging out with Kanye. Those look like Nas tanks. Nitrosus
Okay,
tanks.
go back. Thank you. Buy the shirt. And then we also have go down Go down. Where is it? The fuck Zuck shirt.
Where the fuck is Zuck?
Where the fuck is the fuck Zuck shirt?
That's got to be
there.
at the
It
top
is.
of the
That's got to
front
be
page.
first page, man. The fuck Zuck shirt is fire, dude.
I love that one.
I do too, dude. It's one of the best designs we've ever done. So just go to tinfoil-hat-t-shirts.com. What else we got on SamTripoli.com? Go down. Okay, here we go. Hydrogen brown gas. SamTripoli. I need to get back to cameos. Rife Technology. Hey, shout out to Matt Rife, the inventor. He got in a car accident. We're sending you love,
Oh, no.
dude. Hope you heal quick. Yeah,
He's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I guess his car is jacked, dude. AquaCure Hydrogen Brown Gas, Mineral King, our boy Pat Miltich. People love it. Dude, we're about to start doing my own supplements. I'll get you that real quick. The good supplements at a low price. And then Harley Ray, EMF Rocks, Joel Staley, Brain Supreme. How you doing on that?
Ooh, always on it. 1 week off. No, what is it? 1 week on, 1 week off. That's what he
Okay,
said.
and then Prometheus. You can see all my tweets, everything on Nuke Social, Tinfoil Hat, Telegram, Zero Telegram, anything else, guys.
Hit that like button, subscribe. XG marks the spot on YouTube. Go watch my vlogs, please.
Okay.
New Broken
Johnny.
Sim is out. Check that out. And then at Broken Sim on Twitter for now.
Okay.
You got busted by the cops?
Enjoy. I got pulled over. Enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
So we do Louisville. It's a great time. One side is this woman who, let me see if I can get her name. I'm not going to say her whole name, but
Big
she
boobs,
wore a
Mickey?
shirt that says Sam thinks I'm a GILF.
Oh, I saw this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw
so
this picture.
she-
Should I pull this picture up?
Yeah.
Or no? You don't
Yeah.
want her picture? You put it on
Yeah.
socials. There she is.
Yeah, that's it. It looks like I'm like, spin around and look.
There
But that's her.
yeah.
Sam Tripoli thinks I'm a GILF.
I mean, think about it, dude. She went through the effort to have a T-shirt made. that
No, she's
says,
great.
Sam Tripoli.
She
thinks
wants to
I'm a guilt.
babysit my kids. She's like, I will come to you and babysit your children. I have a doctorate in child development. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. We'll keep that. Yeah. She'll fly out, Johnny.
We'll call you.
Well, hey, Johnny, don't make fun of my GILF. Okay?
You're gonna have her come babysit your children?
Maybe, dude. I mean, how much is it going to cost me?
Yeah, that's good.
How much of a fan of mine are you?
That's great.
So we did it. She was
Huge,
over here.
Huge boobs, by the way.
Yeah,
if you're
you know,
listening,
yeah.
huge boobs.
Yeah, what do you think those are? Like D's?
I don't know.
Double D's?
They're massive.
Yeah, giant, massive D cup tits on grandma who's got a doctorate. Total package.
I mean, that's like downsized.
in the yeah, dude. She's so we go there. She's on this side laughing and having a great time. On this side is a very nice guy who obviously is my fan, who brought his wife who didn't know what she was getting into.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
And
great.
you just tell, not laughing at all. Not laughing. And it's just crazy because they're always in the front row. It's like, why are you in the front row if you don't want to laugh?
I don't get that either. People who just have to be in the front row and they're
It's just
sitting
so
there
crazy to
stone
me,
faced, yeah.
Johnny. It's so crazy to me. And then there was another chick not laughing, and she didn't laugh until I did my pronoun joke, and then she laughed really hard.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, I should have opened up with dropping N-bombs. I would have been getting a laugh out of you.
Yeah, we know what she's into. That's great.
So we go back to the hotel. It's, again, a gorgeous hotel.
You and the N-word lady go back to the hotel?
No, like Johnny, it literally was like it could have been like an apartment complex for like a single, like if you were young and single.
The hotel?
Yeah, my room was like a living room and then a bedroom with a nice
gotcha.
bathroom. So you could, like, if you were single, you could live there. You'd bring chicks back, be a champ at this gorgeous, huge, like, apartment complex that got turned into a hotel. So we go there. We drive to Indianapolis. We drive from Louisville, Kentucky to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne, Indiana is about 300,000 people. And I'm driving, and it's like so weird because you never know what you're driving into, meaning the rules. It's like Quantum Leap, right? You kind of got to show up and figure out what the rules of the place is.
Yeah.
And apparently in Indiana, you can't speed, even though everyone around you is speeding.
Yes.
I got a speeding ticket in Indiana.
Oh no!
It's the worst.
What was it? What was it? What were you going?
Oh, that's the funniest part. So, anyways, I see this guy, and like, I have a real problem when cops try to hide that they're cops in like undercover cars.
Yes.
Like, you're being deceptive at this point.
Unfair.
Right? It's just not cool. You're camouflaged. Let us know. So, anyways, I'm driving, and I look over. I go, oh, please don't let it be a cop. So I drive, and I just kind of look in the mirror, and I see. I'm like, oh no.
What is this?
He's like, because he's facing there's like, you know where they always have like kind of in the middle of the highway somewhere where you can do a U-turn,
and he's facing you.
He was facing the other highway.
I see. Okay.
Right, and he's facing it, so I'm like, oh, he's just watching them. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then I saw him do the because he's
turning around.
He's turning around.
Okay.
And I'm like,
you
oh,
could
no.
just said that instead of being like he's. Well, how am I supposed to know what that means?
I said this, Johnny.
Yeah, and then you made some.
Yeah.
Or you could have just said he turned around.
Well, Johnny, if this is a proper podcast, you would write that down as a reference for people in the future if they need to know, if they need to speak brokenese, okay? So anyways, so it's the worst feeling when you're driving. You slow down because you're like, okay, I'm just going to play it cool.
You probably hit the brake then. You did that. You were an amateur. You hit the brake, right? You hit a little brake.
No.
You got to take your foot off.
I didn't hit the brake.
You got to take your foot off
until after the lights were already on.
You never brake. That's the rule. You let it coast. So that
Johnny, it doesn't matter at this point.
Because then you can say, I was going that speed the whole time, officer.
Okay, I love you, Johnny.
I'm giving you a tip.
Anyways, I see him pull up behind me. I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is pulling me over.
What was he driving?
Like a black, like
Charger, Dodge Charger.
I wasn't quite Dodge Charger, but it was along the lines of that.
It was a car, though.
It was a car, and he had the lights on me and pulled me over. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get myself out of this. He gave me zero opportunity to talk my way out of this.
No Biden jokes.
Yeah, nothing. I even drive. Hey man, I'm a comic. You know how long you were going? How fast you were going? I go 70. He goes 90.
What's the speed limit? 70.
70. 90. You know you're going 90. Yeah. Then you went. I caught you. Then you went 88 when you saw me. I was like, oh, dude, calm down. And as he's like laying into me for speeding, people are just whoo. Like I'm the prey getting eaten by the predator, and the rest of them are like, dude, sorry to hear that, but we gotta save yourself, bro. And they're just flying past them. Bang, bang, bang.
Were you going faster than the people around you?
No.
Were you in the passing lane or in the inside lane? Like
in Indiana, everything is just go.
You gotta stay in the slow lane. That's the other rule. You can speed as much as you want if you stay in the slow lane and just use the passing lane for passing, because they don't check the slow lane in my experience.
Dude, this guy is checking everybody all the time.
Never gonna.
He gets hard, rock hard.
Never mind.
Rock hard.
I speed all the time. Never gotten a speeding ticket using the.
Well, Johnny, because they're like, oh, he's a little faggot. Mm-hmm. I don't need to pull him over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was, Sam. Not the Johnny Woodard.
Johnny, they have that. That's the gun. It tells you how fast you are and how gay you are.
We should get one of those in here and point at you. That's it. See a little,
oh, dude, you'd be done.
You know what it pops up? Macaroni,
dude.
Right
so somebody, I guess, during the Austin Picard Jose Garçon show something about trans, and somebody posted something. I'll go back to the story, but posted something about I had sex with a trans. It was a post on like 4chan.
Oh, and
like I did
Charlie
a joke
Kirk
like,
yeah.
I go, why are you tagging me on this? And then like everybody took it serious. Like I wasn't completely joking.
But wasn't it like it was supposed to have been written by like Charlie Kirk or something like that?
No.
It was one of those guys.
The other influence, Mike, the Zionist.
Oh yeah, Cernovich.
Yeah.
Cernovich.
Yeah.
Cernovich.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everyone's like, we know, bro. We know. I'm like, oh, Johnny's propaganda is working. Anyways.
What does that mean? My propaganda.
Your propaganda making me a tranny hunter, you fucker. So anyways.
You did that to you, by the way.
You did that to you.
You used to joke about that a lot in the early days.
I still joke about that. Okay? That's the point. There's a comic out there that's constantly giving me shit all the time. And the worst part of it is that he just uses my own jokes against me. It's so fucking annoying. He accuses everybody of stealing his jokes, and he just regurgitates my jokes that I do about me. I'm not going to say.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.